Hi everyone, this is Nathan from Snap and welcome to another of our Snap XMP webinars. Today we're going to be looking at a brand new feature within Snap XMP that allows you to add a question within the body of an email invitation. It should take about 25 minutes and as ever there's plenty of resources available in our support hub which I'll be pointing you to at the end. We'll be looking at a few slightly different uses of this feature today. The question can form part of a bigger survey, with the invitation hopefully encouraging them to click on the question within the email before completing the rest of the questionnaire. It might be that actually it's just a standalone question that simply requires the one response before submitting. We'll be looking at making it more visual with the use of images, as well as introducing a new feature which uses the images in place of a more traditional checkbox. I will be doing a webinar in January which will focus on the new Show Us Boxes feature, as this does open up some nice new design opportunities. In terms of benefits, well, it's all about increasing engagement. It's another trick up your sleeve to create a visually pleasing email invitation that hopefully encourages the reader to click on it and access the questionnaire. And of course, with more engagement come more clicks, and with more clicks come more data at your fingertips, and with that, more valuable knowledge for your business or organisation. And I think sometimes we forget the real reason behind running a questionnaire. We want to find out information so that we can act upon it. The more data you can get, the more likely that your action points will be relevant. Okay, let's head into the software to see how this is set up. I'm going to be working in the webinar folder today, and we'll be making use of 5 slightly different setups. To begin with, I have a fairly standard questionnaire with a satisfaction question to begin with, and then a number of rating scale questions, plus a couple of other questions separated by a page break. And it's this first question which will be used in the email. There's nothing more exciting than that, although it's probably worth noting that this survey's been set up using our new single edition template, and as such we just have the one online edition at the bottom rather than the 3 different editions of PC, laptop and phone. For that reason, I'm making use of the carousel style questions for these rating scale questions, as they work quite well on phones and tablets and PCs. Before I head into Snap XMP Online to show the email invitation, I'm quickly going to look at the participants spreadsheet which we're going to be uploading today. You can see I have 10 potential respondents, all made up from my favourite Mr. Men and Little Miss characters. I'll be playing the part of Miss Hilary Helpful today. You can see each row has an email address, a unique username, as well as some personal information such as name and title. If I open up the questionnaire in Snap XMP Online, and if we head into the participants, you can see that I've already uploaded 10 participants, but I'm going to pretend that I'm going to add some more just to show you which options I've gone with. I'll select the Excel spreadsheet which is on my desktop. I'm pointing off to the email column in the spreadsheet, and that's it. I'm not going to see the invitation or the survey of any personalised information, and I'm not going to be tracking the people, so it will actually be an anonymous survey. So I'm simply uploading a list of email addresses to be emailed, but I'm going to cancel out of that as they've obviously been uploaded already. Moving on to the invitation. I'll just need to pause the invitation just so I can take you into the edit window. You can see I have my company logo complete with alt text, which is an important accessibility option. We have some general text. There's an opt-out link for anyone that doesn't wish to receive any more emails with regards to this survey. And then most importantly, we have the actual link for the survey. Now, it is just a link in here, but you can see that it's a question that's come from the online edition, the English edition. It's question number 1, and it's going to be the survey link auto. But you don't need to manually type this link, it's simply a case of adding a question. So I'm just going to add a new one in here. Remember, my survey has just the one edition, whilst you might well have 3 different editions in there: PC, laptop and phone. So it's important that if that is the case, you confirm which version of the question that you wish to be inserted. Again, I only have an English edition today, and it's question 1 which I want to be adding into this invitation. My participants aren't actually being tracked or logged in, but if they were, the survey link auto just means that the link will log them in automatically, rather than them being taken to a login page and having to type in their username and password. And that's it. So really, it's just the same as creating a normal email invitation, but the link for the survey is actually the question. You don't add a normal link, as the idea is that they click on the question instead. This questionnaire is already live and the email's already been sent, so I'm going to pop into Outlook to see the end result. I'll just cancel out of here. So I have my email from Big Bucks Wild Adventure Palace. You can see if I hover over the question, you can see the link pops up for the survey. And if you look at the end of it, you can see it's actually seeding question 1 with the answer. So the good will seed Q1 equals 1, OK will be Q1 equals 2, and the bad Q1 equals 3. I'm going to go ahead and choose good. That will open up the questionnaire, and when it opens you can see that question 1 has already been answered. I do have the option to change that if I wish, but the opening message is thanking them for the feedback thus far and asking them for any further information. So I'll just run through and fill out the rest of the questionnaire. So this is the carousel which I was talking about, and I'll just submit as normal. Okay, let's look to make this invitation a little bit nicer visually. I'm going to head back into Snap Desktop. In this example, the question which is going to be used in the invitation is actually a hidden question, and then the data from that is going to be seeded using text substitution below. The questionnaire is much shorter, just asking for any additional feedback, and then there's also the option to have a look at the privacy statement. I'll just right click on the hidden question just to show you how the question looks. Here I've simply added 5 different images instead of the question text. You'll remember from last month's accessibility webinar the importance of using the alt text, and that's also going to be used for any analysis and text substitution, which we're going to be using below. You will notice that this is a like single choice rather than a standard single choice question, and that's just because I've gone into margins and just allocated a little bit of extra margins to the top and bottom just to essentially spread this out a little bit more. The setup of the invitation is exactly the same as before, so I'm just going to go straight to my emails and have a look at the end result. So this time we have a message from in-crowd conferences. The message is a little bit more colourful if nothing else, and this time I've added the participant's name just to personalise the email, which all helps to increase the click rates. As before, as I hover over these different images, you can see the different links with the different endings, so Q1 equals 4, Q1 equals 5. I'm going to select 4 stars. Again, that's answering question 1 in the background, seeding the data into my opening statement, and I can go ahead and add any additional information as I wish. As this is a very short questionnaire, we could look to automate it a little bit, and that's what we're going to be doing in my next example. So I'm going to head back into Snap Desktop. This time the only question is actually the one which is going to be contained in their email, as well as my privacy statement. Again, the actual question is hidden, so it's actually exactly the same type of question as I had before. So I'll just hide that one again. But this time I'm using additional images as part of my sort of statements, as well as slightly different text depending on whether people give a positive or a negative response. So you can see my data is saying, we're sorry to hear we underperformed, if it's a 1 star, If it's a 3-star, we didn't quite hit the mark. And if it's one of the more positives, 4 and 5 stars, then great to hear we're doing so well. I've then got routing based on that hidden question to say when these different images and statements will pop up. In terms of automating things, what I've actually then added is a statement telling people that this will automatically submit in 25 seconds, although they can actually override that and submit whenever they like. And that's just been inserted using a page timer. So in my case today, I've added a 25-second page timer. I've said that's going to display, and then it will automatically submit when it gets down to 0. Let's have a look at the resulting email and live survey. So again, message from in-crowd conferences. Very similar email, so I'm going to select 3 stars this time. That will open up the live survey. You can see I've got the 3 stars images, I've got the message telling me that sorry we didn't quite hit the mark, and then as you can see there's a countdown timer and the option to turn on the additional privacy statement. I could go ahead and press submit, but as we've only got 5 seconds left, we may as well wait and let it do its thing. Okay, time to ramp things up a little with the addition of a new feature which uses the answer label as the checkbox. I will be doing a webinar in January looking at this functionality in more detail, but today I'm going to be using it on question number 1. If I look at the paper survey, you can see that we have a standard question, but as before I'm using images in place of any text, but we've still got the checkboxes as you'd normally expect to see, whilst if we head back into the online version, you can see the checkboxes are no longer present. This has been achieved using the show option, and then we've got a new option in there called as buttons, and you can see there's a tick box for show, so we're showing that question as buttons. If I was to turn that feature back off again, the checkboxes would appear as per normal. If I move into the options button, you can see we then have the options to specify how these images are going to look and react when they're hovered over and selected. The first column being what they will look like when they're unselected, and then the second column being the transitional state when they are selected. Again, I've got some text substitution happening in the statement underneath, so again that's just been inserted using the insert button, so inserting a variable field and taking the data from question 1 and putting the reply into that statement. The rest of the questionnaire is a fairly sort of standard setup, just with some normal single response questions, some open-ended comment questions, some routing, etc. And the setup in Snap Online is the same as before, so let's again head straight back to the emails and see it in action. So this time a message from All Good Counsel. You can see a very similar setup. I've got my logo, I've got some opening text, I've got my opt-out statements, and then obviously a slightly different looking image, but this time you can see the difference is that there's no checkboxes to check. Still the same sort of hover text, so Q1 equals 1, Q1 equals 2, etc. I'll go with good. Again, once the questionnaire is open, you can see that it's already answered the first question for me, although I can override that, and you can see the text is changing below. Obviously in my last couple of examples the question was hidden, whilst here we've got this question on display, and whether we display the question or not is probably down to personal preference, along with a dependence on what kind of survey it is in terms of length, content and subject matter. I think sometimes it can seem a bit annoying to effectively see the same question again, as no doubt the respondent will end up reading it again, and ultimately I've got better things to do with my time than fill in a questionnaire full stop, let alone read a question twice. But it does give the respondent the opportunity to reconsider, and that might be a useful option in some circumstances. In my final example, I'm using an NPS style question for a friends and family type questionnaire. I'm once again making use of the Show As buttons. Again, just highlighting the importance of the alt text, with that being both an accessibility feature, but also that the text will be used in any analysis and any text substitution that we might use throughout the questionnaire. I'll pop into the options window just to show you which settings I went for this particular example, but very similar to what we did before. And if we then look at the questionnaire in Snap XMP online, we can then take you through the participant and invitation settings once more. So again, if I go to collect and then participants and look at my participant list, I should add that there's red crosses next to the send invites for most of these because actually these email addresses don't really exist. But I'm going to pretend that I'm going to upload some more again. As before, I'll just point off to the spreadsheet on my desktop. So for this particular example, again, I'm making use of the email column, so Snap knows where to get everyone's email address from. I'm going to be seeding data into the invitation and the reminder just to sort of personalise it, so I can say Dear Mr. Happy, Dear Mr. Grumpy. We're going to track respondents this time using the unique username on that spreadsheet, so that allows Snap to send out reminder emails to those people that haven't responded. We could see the actual questionnaire itself, but we're not going to worry about that one today. So I'm just going to press next. For the invitation and potentially the reminder, we were going to seed some information. So today we're going to make use of the title and the second name or surname. So in my case, it's going to say Dear Miss Helpful. And then this is just a confirmation of what's going to happen, but we've already done that. So again, I will just cancel back out of that one. For the invitation, again, I'll just need to pause that so I can edit it. As before, we're making use of a logo, and if I go into the insert image icon, so this is an image which is hosted somewhere, so in my case it's actually just hosted as part of a live survey. Remember to make use of the alt text, the accessibility option, and of course remembering that the image in the live survey may be quite a big banner. This email is quite likely to be picked up on someone's phone, so we just need to consider how big to make that image in the invitation. I've got my seeded title and second name, so that's just been added using the insert tag. I've got some general introduction text. As before, I've got the opt-out link at the bottom, which again has been added using the opt-out option tag. What I have done though is edit the text so it doesn't just say opt-out, it's going to say opt-out here, so I've done that by going into hyperlink. So that was the original opt-out tag, but the actual text is going to say opt-out here. I've just changed that just so it reads correctly as part of this sentence. And then the question link has been added using add question. So again, I'll just add a second one on there. Remember to consider the question styling if you have multiple editions in your survey. So for example, the question used on a PC or laptop might be too wide to be easily read in an email on a phone. So you might want to consider displaying the phone edition styling. In my case today, although I have got phone and tablet there, to be honest, those are hidden, they're not actually part of the questionnaire, so I'm going to be just making use of the online edition because effectively this is a single edition template. Again, choose which question it is that you want to include as part of your email, and then we have the survey link or the survey link auto. So remember, the survey link would mean that the respondent would need to type in their username and potentially a password, but they're quite likely not going to know what either of those are. And even if they did, then it's an additional step for them to type in. So unless you've got a good reason for wanting to manually input that information, I'd probably recommend going with survey link auto. as that will send each and every person a unique link, and in doing so they will be logged in automatically. Let's take a look at the email that's been sent. So this time an email from All Good Hospital. I'm going to go with option number 9 today. And I'm going to add some comments as well. And because this is a logged in survey, if I was to now close this one down and then click on the answer again, it's effectively going to remember what I did. It's kind of auto saving as you go along for a logged in survey. Again, it's not to say that I can't then change my answer, and you can see again I've got different routing with different questions appearing depending on which answer you give. Okay, that's everything I had planned to show today. We've looked at how to add a simple question into an email invitation, making the email look more enticing by way of adding images to the question, along with making use of the new Show As Buttons feature. And along the way, I've shown you a few different techniques and options for how your questionnaire might look. On screen now are some QR codes which will take you off to supporting documentation on our support hub, including a more detailed look at participants within a survey. Don't worry, I will be emailing you in the next day or so with these links, as well as a recording of today's webinar. If you have got 2 minutes to complete a short questionnaire about today's webinar, I'd really appreciate that. That can be accessed using the last QR code on the right, or alternatively, you can access this link in the chat area of this Teams call. Thank you for joining me, and we will hopefully see you again soon.